Just want to ask you both kind of what you felt like you needed in the secondary coming out of last year and what you feel like you've given the team.
Yeah, I think obviously the season didn't end the way that we wanted it to. And I think after the season we sat down and we talked about what we wanted to do to the team and what we wanted to create. We wanted to create incredible competition at all positions. That was a position that we hadn't addressed a lot early in the draft. We felt like that we still had some veteran guys on the roster and that we were going to get back. You mentioned a couple guys, Isaiah, and obviously we had Slay and Bradbury, and we had a couple of young guys, but we wanted to add some youth. You know, it wasn't a position that we were really going to try to address in free agency. We wanted to kind of draft and develop those guys. And when you looked at the free agency list and maybe the strength of the early part of the draft, you know, we thought that was something we could do. Now, you go through the process and things change, you know. So when you start with a list that you get in January and then you have the Senior Bowl and the Combine, sometimes the process thins things out. So that's always a little bit risky, but I think the way that the draft fell allowed us to address those guys early, not force anything, and hopefully add competition to that group.
Can I just ask Nick, just if you could talk about what you feel like you have now in the secondary?
Yeah, just obviously really excited about the group that we have with the guys that are back from last year, the guys that we added in free agency, guys that we've added during the draft, and really look forward to getting them out in the field and starting to work here within the next couple of weeks. You know, just excited about the competition, like Howie's talking about the competition that's going to happen out there. You know, competition is just going to make everybody better, and we're really looking forward to getting those guys out there. We got a good room, and we're looking forward to working with them.
You said a half ago that sometimes you can be biased towards hometown players. What was that process like for you, balancing your emotions versus what was best for the team when it came to selecting Jeremiah Trotter Jr.?
Yeah, I think, one, you got to stick to your board, you know, so we can't make up a grade on any player just because we like them. You know, I make a joke a lot of time, you know, the best person I know in the world is my wife, and I don't want her playing linebacker for us either. So I think for us, at the end of the day, you have to have a certain skill set to play at any position in the National Football League. And so we're looking for a skill set, and we're drafting players based on a skill set. So as much as, you know, you like those stories, and it's a great story without the ending, you know, we just started that story. But it's got to be a skill set, and he's got a skill set, and that's why we drafted him. He's got mentality, that's why we drafted him, and we're looking forward to him being his own person, you know, not having to walk in anyone's footsteps, but creating his own legacy.
Speaking of skill sets, what do you like about Will Shipley, specifically in terms of his pass catching? And Nick, I guess you can chime in on that one too.
Yeah, well, why don't you talk since I got distracted?
Yeah, you know, really excited about Will. He just has has ability to make guys miss in space, accelerate off of that. You know, and then also be a threat out of the backfield, and also being able to line up. I think he's very versatile in the things that he can do. Not only you can hand him the football, you can throw him the football. He can line up all over the field. So you know, it'll be fun working with a player like him. And you know, obviously I talked a lot about the things on the field because that's what got him in the door. But what's made him a special player is the person that he is, the leader that he is, the worker that he is, and we're really excited to add that type of person to our locker room. And you know, it's just all-American person, and we're really looking forward to that. And obviously, the talent sticks out as well.
I'm sorry. Did you have anything? We came a little earlier. You know, I thought we were done with undrafted free agents. You're good on Will Shipley?
Thanks.
Okay.
We might sound a little silly,
like
but when you're making all these trades in a short period of time, how do you and the organization like keep everything straight and make sure logistically you're on top of it all?
I just do it. I mean, we got all these people in this room, and kind of know what we're trying to do here. We know what sounds good when a trade sounds good. We know what we're trying to execute. I don't know. I never really thought about it that way. I think we just, you know, as we're doing this and as we're getting close to being on the clock, we kind of have an idea of our plan and how many guys are there. And, you know, sometimes when we hear a trade, it kind of sounds good, and we do it.
Is it sometimes part of
It
like
should be a little more complicated. I don't know.
is it sometimes part of like a bigger plan, or do you take them as they come?
Well, I think when you start a day like today and you have as many picks as we do, you go into it and say, hey, what will be a great goal? It would be to get as many of the guys that we've targeted on day 3 as we possibly can. And at the same time, see if we can try to accumulate picks for the future. You know, we're a little light for next year's draft going into day 3 today. And so I think that was a little bit of a focus in the trade talks. Sometimes you're in trade talks and you're kind of going, hey, I'll take a pick in this year's draft. And so in those talks, more focused today in particular about like, you know, instead of a this year pick, we'll take a next year pick just because we wanted to get back some of the picks that we had gotten rid of next year. We felt like we had an opportunity with the amount of picks we had today to get a lot of players that we liked, and we were also excited about the draft process. I mean, you know, you guys all talked about it. It will be a little bit different draft class next year because of the amount of guys that are coming out next year. So that was kind of in the back of our mind.
If I can follow up on that, do you think this franchise values future picks more than a lot of other teams? And Jeffrey's kind of part of that too.
Well, I think, you know, Jeffrey sets the tone for everything we do, and he's never going to only think about the short term. I mean, he's totally focused on trying to win a championship, but he's also thinking about how we're going to look next year and the year after, and I feel like that's my job too. You know, that's my responsibility. I said this in one of the other press conferences that we had. I feel like I got to do whatever I can to make sure this franchise is in good position going forward, and so I have that responsibility. I think I get a partner here. I don't know if I was trying to think of the right word, but who is he's always looking out for what's best for the team, you know. And I've been very fortunate to work with him and know that he's not sitting there saying like, oh, we're going to do this for next year, and he's going, man, this sounds great, you know. And I think you got the 3 of us like-minded about trying to balance doing everything we can to win a championship now, and also trying to keep this rolling so that we can do that in the future.
You guys look at the tape
Star players this time last year. You spoke about the Red Star players. Was there anyone in this class who fit that description?
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna read your text because I thought this was good. I got this from 2 of my 2 of our senior college guys. We almost had unanimous A football character. I think of those guys, Red Stars, 1, 2, 3. We had 5 Red Stars. You know, we had kind of a philosophy. We wanted to have a mentality off season. We wanted to bring in people here who had a chip on our shoulder because we felt like we had a little bit of a chip on our shoulder, not in a bad way, just in a way like, you know, we felt like, you know, we wanted to do whatever we could to put ourselves in the best possible situation for this year because we had a bad taste in our mouth for last year, and we wanted to bring in as many people, and I say we because it starts with us, that had that kind of same feeling. And it started in free agency, bringing in the free agents that we brought in. And we were looking for people in the draft who had that. So, you know, Jeff asked about Will Shipley. You know, Will Shipley is a great example of that. I mean, this is a guy who he wants that. He has a 4.0 in school because he wants to beat everyone's ass at academics, you know. And, you know, I know Coach gets a hard time sometimes for playing one-on-one or playing rock, paper, scissors, but he's doing it to find out how competitive people are. You know, he wants to see when he beats them, are they mad? Or are they just like, I don't really care? Because he's competitive. And so we're looking for that kind of thing. We're always looking for that, but it was more important to us more than ever this offseason.
Of those 5, who were they?
Come on.
What's the best story from basketball and free draft?
The best story?
Shoot. No, I just had some good competitive games. I don't think I have one that just sticks out. The guys were competitive. Was able to get to know guys while, you know, in a setting like this. I mean, you do it for multiple reasons, but the main thing is to be competitive with it. Trust me, I don't pick a sport that I don't feel like I'm bad at to do it with, and I don't play them one-on-one. So like, it's just a shooting game, but it's just more to you know, kind of get to know them in a setting where they can let their guard down a little bit, and then also to feel them out with how competitive they are. So I wouldn't say one story stuck out over the other this year.
When you guys look
You know what I
at-
love though? I love when they play horse and they dunk, and then they ask coach to do, it, and he goes H.
When you guys look at the picks you did make, I mean, all your offensive guys were taken, today in day 3 and everything. And obviously, the NFL being an offensive league, this is something you guys value and everything. Do you feel like you guys were picking for offense mostly to kind of provide depth with what you had, or do you see these guys eventually, moving up and, starting sometime down the road? How do you see it?
Yeah, we don't draft anyone that we don't think can start. Everyone we draft, we're drafting starters. We feel like we can find backups. So any person that we're drafting, we see the potential to start. Your draft picks are so valuable. If you're not drafting guys that you think are starters, you're already kind of setting the limit on what they can do. So that's why we talk a lot about tools in their body. That's why we talk a lot about development, because we want guys that we feel like can step in and start. We know it's a long season. We're trying to play 20 games. We know we're going to need guys that have to come in and fill in if guys catch a cold for a game or two. So I think that from our perspective, we didn't draft anyone. Now, obviously we draft receivers. We got 2 of the best receivers in the league. But at the end of the day, we're drafting guys based on how we value them, like we're an expansion team. So when we do our college grades, when we do our board, they're not needs based.
On the offensive line, you lost Kelsey, 2 backups. You brought in a bunch of guys for visits who went on the first 2 days. Would you have been surprised 5 days ago to look at this class to see that you didn't draft an offensive lineman until round 5? Why did it work out that way?
It's just how the board fell. I think that there was a run on offensive linemen in some areas where we didn't pick, and when we came back and picked in some of those rounds, it didn't really fit. And we felt like it was more important to stay true to our board than to just kind of reach. Like you said, we have added some offensive line, but yeah, I think it's different. You can rest assured that there's not a pick that doesn't go by that's not kind of part of our process. Certainly part of in my mind trying to make sure that does that. That's we're not going to try to be negligent in that area at any time. So excited about the 2 guys that we got. Also excited about a couple of the guys that we signed here in the off season, not only in free agency but getting a guy from a practice squad and some of our younger guys. And again, we'll always look to add.
Starting characteristics of the guys you drafted on the offensive line.
Yeah, I think both those guys, both were team captains. Obviously, you talk about Keegan and a guy, team captain for national championship team, can play with power. He's got mentality. And then you talk about Dylan. He's probably a little bit different guy, elite athlete. Again, a guy that both those guys that we've been on as a staff and felt fortunate that they were there on day 3.
Nick, when you look at Aeneas Smith and when you look at the tape, what really stood out when you guys were going through the draft process to say, this is the guy that we want to add?
Yeah, obviously we were all really excited about him. It's great when you kind of watch a guy for, obviously when I'm starting to watch a guy, Howie's watched him probably 3 or 4 times by the time I get to watch him one time, but it's always fun to go into his office, be like, hey, I love this guy. And I think that was definitely a guy that we did that with. His ability to run after the catch, his ability to, get in and out of breaks. I think, he's extremely tough. I love that about him. That's really what sticks out. He catches the ball really well. And so those are the things that, that really stick out. And it's going to be fun to see how we can get him the football and different ways that he can contribute, both on special teams and on offense.
All right, do you see Johnny Wilson as a good?
Yeah, great mind.
Johnny Wilson.
Johnny.
It seems like you guys have brought in a lot of really big receivers on futures deals. Is there something about that framework that you like, Nick, maybe in the offense when you got a guy that size?
Yeah, I think I value the play strength, and so it doesn't necessarily ever have to be about the actual size. If they play strong, you love that, right? Because it's a it's a game that requires strength, right? And that doesn't matter if you're in the interior of the offensive line or out there playing wide receiver. And so, again, the strong guys can come in all shapes and sizes, and so we really value that in the wide receiver position, the quickness, the play strength, and he has that for his size. He has good quickness, and so we're really looking forward to working with him.
Because of that size, do you think of him at all as being a possible tight end?
How you want me to answer it?
Yeah, I think, he can run the full route tree. And so I think a lot of times you do that when guys don't have the lower body flexibility to get in and out of their breaks. We don't see that with Johnny. So, that's going to be the same answer you would have said.
Yeah, all his production's coming on the outside, running outside routes. And so, yeah, really looking forward to working with him there at the wide receiver position.
He's what's the word?
He's unique. He's unusual.
Yeah,
he's unusual.
At right guard right now, post-draft.
Yeah, I think we got a long time till we played the first game. We drafted a guy in the 3rd round last year that we're excited about. We've brought in some guys here that have started before in the league, and competition will bring out the best. And again, I think we like the players that we have on the roster, and this process is not complete. It's not going to be complete for a long time at any position, so we're going to constantly be looking. I promise next week we're not going to be taking the week off and sitting at the pool. We're going to be looking at our list, seeing what's out there, seeing the opportunities, and we'll do that every day, until we can't do it anymore.
Without many roster spots open, do you anticipate a smaller undrafted group, or is there some work to be done?
Yeah, that's why we're down here earlier. It's the smallest undrafted group I've ever been part of. I think total, did we get seven guys? So, yeah, different. And I think a big part of that is because we made a conscious decision after the season to try to get guys from teams' practice squads, where we had some tape to watch. And we felt like, that was just for us kind of a unique opportunity that we wanted to try and take advantage of based on this class. And knowing that kind of this was a different class, and so it wouldn't have kind of the same opportunities in the undrafted market that maybe you'll get next year. So we tried to take advantage of that a little bit earlier. I think it will be back to normal next year.
Did that
You mentioned
motivate
that
you
word.
to make trades too, to have late round draft picks as opposed to testing the free agent market?
Yeah, for sure. I think also, where our board was, that we felt like we get a clump of players, that it was in a sweet spot when we started today, where our board was, and that we thought we can get a bunch of guys. I think where in the first 2 rounds, like when you're waiting for a guy, you think that it's you don't have as high a chance of getting them. When you get to day 3, you got a better chance again. Those guys, people's boards are different. It looks a little bit different. So we felt like we get a bunch of guys here in day 3 that we really liked. And, we got those guys now. We got to develop them. They got to come in and they got to play well.
You mentioned that word unique a couple times. Has that become a bigger deal on day 3? Maybe you're looking for one specific unique trait?
Yeah, it's always how we've been. We've always felt like, again, to play in the National Football League, you have to have something unique about you athletically and have traits, tools in your body to develop. Obviously, mentality comes with that. So we're always looking for those guys. I think that's where we've had our best success. Certainly we talk about before every draft, some of the greatest 6th and 7th round picks we've had have been Jason Kelce, freak, Jordan Mailata, freak. And so, like those guys, if you're going to hit on guys on day 3, they better be unusual.
A couple more?
What did you learn about Vic and Kellen going through the draft process with them for the first time?
Yeah, I've gotten to know those guys pretty well, just kind of being around the league for a long time. So I think that their personalities are kind of similar to when we didn't work together. I think that those guys love football. They're very dialed in to doing whatever they can to improve the team. I think we're lucky to have both those guys.
Nick, you're going into now phase 2 and phase 3 of the offseason. Is there things that you want to accomplish maybe different this year because of the way things ended last year?
Sure, yeah. You always are reevaluating things after each year, and you think about the things that you've done well as far as what as far as your process goes, and the things that you feel like you can improve. So, Yeah, just making a really strong effort that we're all working our butts off in the weight room. The guys have been unbelievable down there. Our strength coaches have done a great job, leading the way here for the first couple weeks, and our guys have worked really hard down there. So we just want to continue that, and really what you're just trying to do right now is take each day one day at a time and continue to build the culture. Your culture is your behaviors, what you kind of value. And your behaviors consistently every single day. And that's all we're really trying to do right now, is work our butts off in the weight room, get ourselves mentally ready for the times when we are going to go on the field and, and practice coming up here in the spring with our meetings and stuff like that. But, slight different things change in the process year in, year out, and we've definitely had a couple different changes there.
On your front office changes, how have you prepared for Jake's departure, and are you expecting any other changes now?
Yeah, I don't know that I've really dealt with Jake's departure. I want to miss him. Obviously, very close relationship. He's someone I rely on and off the field. I think that we have people in place, but to me, he's irreplaceable. Just the person he is and what he brings to this team. That doesn't mean that we don't have really good people, but I'll miss him.
Nick, you guys mentioned earlier, obviously you wanted to draft guys with a chip on their shoulders. Like, because of the way last year ended, have you guys noticed that same chip, like, among the players who are coming back? I mean, especially from what you've seen, during this offseason?
Yeah, I just think everybody is hey, we're starting again, just starting again, and obviously none of us are satisfied or satisfied. Not all of us are pissed off of how that ended, but we're working every single day in the sense of how do we get better today? How do we get better today? How do we get better today? And putting it one day at a time. But I do sense that everybody has that feeling of unsatisfaction from last year. And that's a good thing when you can control it, right? And so that's our job, is to make sure that we're controlling it and not knowing we can't go out and win the first game right now against Green Bay or anything like that. We have to take it one day at a time and do what we need to do today to get ready. And if that chip on your shoulder is helping you get ready, cool. If it's a distraction, then we have to be able to eliminate that. And everybody's a little bit different there, but I do sense the unsatisfaction from everybody that, and the determination to work their butts off, because that's what I'm seeing every day, is some special things in the weight room. And that's 2 weeks, right? It can't be special for 2 weeks and then we take a week off. It's got to be special every day, and that's how you build a good culture.
All right, thanks. All right.
See you guys at preseason cuts.